Charles Louis Mortgage Advisors, 0161 959 0166.
Now, the guests on the podcast today are Harlan, who's one of our regulars, Adam, another one of our regulars, and the city legend, that is Dennis Tueart, the king of all Geordies, which I feel as if I have to say at the end every time I mention Dennis, because you are the king of all Geordies, Dennis, and you're very welcome to join us. But let's start by asking you what you thought of, the performance at Southampton and where City are at the moment in terms of their readiness for the big challenges that are coming in the month of April.
Well, delighted with the final result, because I was a little bit apprehensive going into the game, because prior to that game on Sunday, they had a bit of a blip, but before that, they had a fantastic run of performances, and I thought, wow, we've got to play Southampton in the cup away from home, but they had a few dips in their form, so they weren't sort of ready really for the game. And I knew, I've got this thing about watching Manchester City. Once we score the first goal, I'm 99% certain that we win the game. It's when we don't, when the opposition sit deep, we try and get behind them, and they're so tight in defence, there's no space to penetrate, and then they hit us on a counter. We go one down, and all of a sudden, we find it difficult to break them down, because they then go back into the shell. And I think if you look over the last 2 or 3 years, the teams that have beat us are the ones that have been sitting deep, give us no space. Our tempo begins to build up slowly. We can't penetrate, and they hit us on the counter, get the goal, and all of a sudden we're up against it.
So obviously after the Crystal Palace draw, there were a few people a little bit down. 4-1 victory at Southampton suggests that being down was ill-founded, but I still think there's a few City fans a little bit anxious about what's to come. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think you have to be a little bit anxious, because this is the latter end of the season, the latter end of the cup competitions, and then obviously the better teams have got through to these situations in the league. So we've got Chelsea, we've got Liverpool, we've got Arsenal, West Ham, Spurs, United to a degree in the Premier League, and then we've got the FA Cup and the Champions League as well. I think Madrid over 2 legs won't be easy, especially when we're at home first, and obviously the FA Cup against Liverpool on the Sunday.
You mentioned about teams, certain teams anyway, playing in a certain way to try to combat what City do so brilliantly. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue that when they're on song, the passing, the movement off the ball is just awesome. But there are certain types of teams, Crystal Palace were a good example, who sit back and have a very deep defence, often 5, maybe even 6 at the back. Atletico Madrid do tend to have a reputation for playing that way. So is that something that that gives you? I mean, it could have been one of the others. It could have been Bayern. It could have been Liverpool. It could have been Chelsea. And I looked at Atletico Madrid, who only went past United by 1 goal, and thought, this will be tough. But I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, they only beat United by 1 point. We'll easily beat them." Where do you stand on that?
Well, you know what you're going to get with Simeone's team. They're going to be ultra defensive. They're going to work their socks off. They're going to deny us space. They're going to get tackles in. They're going to probably show some of the dark arts and get away with it. And then that's the way they play. And if they get 1-0 in the first leg, they'll be delighted.
How crucial is the return, assuming he's back for these big games, of Ruben Diaz? Do you see him as a sort of key player?
Well, he is, because he's a stalwart in that middle of the defence. But you need to get him into a match fitness situation. I don't want him just coming off the treatment bench and then standing on the pitch ready to play. At the latter end of the season, he'd be expected to be in tip-top shape. So I'm just not sure about being an understanding of hamstrings myself. I was a class actor. I was literally, I'm a hamstringologist. I've had many of them, and I know exactly what they're like. They've got to be tread very carefully. They've got to make sure the injury is completely healed. You can't have a 90% situation where he's 90% fit. That'll be no good with hamstrings, especially with some of the opposition who are coming off, especially Liverpool, are coming at us with a bit of pace up front.
I was talking to Stuart Brennan from the Evening News, who I travelled to the Southampton game with, and when we, heard the FA Cup draw and knew that City were going to play at Wembley in the semi-final, I looked at him and I knew he was thinking the same as me. And I said, and obviously Dennis might have a view on this, but when you play the same team pretty quickly, one after the other, and they're both crucial games, it seems to me rare that anybody wins both of those games. And obviously it could be a draw between City and Liverpool in the league game, which would then, make that slightly a different story. But to me, playing two quick games like that, you often don't repeat the results. So do you feel that as well, Adam? From the way you're reacting, it looks like you probably agree with that.
Yeah, it is a fair point, but then also you've got to factor in that there's the Champions League as well around then. So people's emotions, if one of us goes through and one of us goes out there, for example, that will skew things wildly as well. I mean, you've got to just the old cliche of one game at a time. I mean, this is the business end. Every game is huge. And we can draw at home to Liverpool in the league, beat them in the cup, and go on to win the double. That could still happen. I just want to beat them every time I play them, though.
Alan, go on. Let's see what you think.
Hope everybody in that dressing room before the games against Liverpool and that have the same attitude as Adam, because that's the way you've got to be positive. You've got to go for it. It's no good sitting, we'll just hold and maybe win that one and lose that. You've got to be so positive. But again, I'm just a little bit anxious about what team is, because you know what their best team is at Liverpool. I'm not sure whether the four of us here would pick the same team for City to play Liverpool. I could pick Liverpool's team, but I would struggle to pick. I think I might get 2 or 3 wrong in the Man City team.
I think it's quite clear now where Pep's going to go with these last few games team-wise. I think that was the big audition against Southampton.
I want to hear it, mate. I want to hear your team selection.
Well, strongest 11, Adam.
Diaz, Stones, Walker, Cancelo.
Walker right back, Diaz, Stones. Then
Cancelo, Rodri. Yeah. And then you can choose who's going to play the number 9. But that front 5, it's got to be Mahrez. For me, Sterling over Grealish, Bernardo, De Bruyne. Have I got one left? I forgot who I've missed out on this.
False 9, Ad. False 9.
Yeah, Foden presumably would be your other one.
Yeah, but I think he needs another midfield player. He's only got Rodri and De Bruyne in the midfield.
Well, and Bernardo.
So that'd be a 3. So you wouldn't play Bernardo but Bernardo can play the first 9 as well.
They can all change. They can interchange, can't they? I mean, Sterling's played there.
Yeah, I'd have that 4: Bernardo Silva, Sterling, Foden, and Mahrez. That'll be me 4. Then De Bruyne and Rodri behind that.
And Foden and Mahrez just passed with flying colours the other day, didn't they? They come off the bench and they just proved they need to be in the 11.
Yeah. See, I'd have Gundogan in that side and Fernandinho. So that proves the point of there not being a team. Haaland, go on.
Now I would. This is when I want Fernandinho to start the game against Liverpool and then be taken off at 60 when the game's out of sight. That's when I want Fernandinho in the team, because Rodri's a great bloke. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people think I've got a vendetta against Rodri. He's a great football player. I think he'd make a mint centre half. He'd be a really good centre half next to Stones as he matures. A bit like Mascherano did when he went to Barcelona from Liverpool and he turned into a centre half. Busquets will probably do the same maybe in a year's time.
That's the only concern I have if we play Liverpool, is we're not dynamic pace at the 2 centre halves. None of our centre halves have got dynamic pace. Diaz, Stones, Laporte, Ake, we haven't got dynamic pace, whereas up against Liverpool, they've got dynamic pace up front.
And if you put Gundogan in the middle there, you can pound that problem.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but you've got no pace at all in that. The back 5, you've got no pace. Because Rodri's not quick either.
That's why for me, what I'd do is, I'd play Fernandinho because I think he's the best protector in front of a back 4 that we've got. Rodri's not as effective in that sense. He's improved, don't get me wrong, he's improved. And he's probably a better, do you know what, is he? He's a nicer passer. Is he a better passer? Is he more progressive than Fernandinho? I don't think he is. It's only Ferner's legs. If Fernandinho was 25, there'd be no argument. Every season,
one thing's for sure, Fernandinho's not going to play in 4 games against Atletico twice and Liverpool twice, is he?
No. Atletico Madrid is one of them where we are going to be allowed the ball and we will be allowed to get into that final third as much as we want, and we're going to have to be creative, but we've got to be better in transition. They will have the ball. When they lose it, we've got to be quick, we've got to be efficient, but we've also got to be ruthless.